first topic today, and look, it's a Wednesday. There's not a huge story that's screaming out, we must cover it, other than this one. And we must cover what's gone on with Antonio Brown the past couple of days, even though it hasn't caught fire the way that it should, the way that it could, or the way that it will, if the NFL does what it has the power to do in the aftermath of the news that broke late Monday afternoon that Antonio Brown was involved in an incident October 15 at the gated community in which he lives in Hollywood, Florida, where he allegedly broke a security camera, allegedly threw a bicycle at a security guard shack, and police, according to the report that was generated, had probable cause to charge him with misdemeanor criminal mischief. The president of the Homeowners Association decided not to. She said, among other things, that she feared retaliation against her staff.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. And it happened before he signed with the Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers quickly issued a statement, Chris, making it clear, no harm, no foul. This happened before we signed him. He's been a guy who complied with everything we wanted ever since we signed him. So they're not going to do anything about it. The question is, what is the league going to do about it? That's what we're discussing now, because it came out yesterday that the league is looking into it, as obviously they would. I never understand why the league's first reaction to something like this is we're aware of it and we have no comment. Well, how do you have no comment? You have no comment? At least say we're looking into it, which is what they do the next day. First day we have no comment. Then the next day they say we're looking into it. And they leaked yesterday to one of their on-the-payroll in-house reporters at NFL Media. They didn't know about it before Antonio Brown was reinstated. That, Chris, is the thing that if the league wants to do it, they can suspend him immediately. They can discipline him swiftly because there is a clear obligation under the personal conduct policy to let the league know when you've been involved in an incident that may be grounds for disciplinary action.
All right.
And he apparently didn't.
But even, Mike, and before you read the language here, even if there was no charges pressed or anything like that, it's still on the duty of the player to tell the league that there was an infraction at this point. I mean, I know it looks like it's probably...
Look, you can read it. You can read it, Texas.
Yeah.
Can you read it, Texas?
I can. Well, I was talking, so now I'm
It's
starting.
right in front of you.
Right.
The answer to your question is in front of you.
That's so broad. I don't...
Yes, it is broad. Failure to report an incident will be grounds for disciplinary action. That's not broad. Here's what's broad. The obligation to report is, you know what's broad? The word broader. Broader than simply reporting an arrest. It requires reporting to the league any incident that comes to the club's or player's attention, which, if the allegations were true, would constitute a violation of the policy. So if it's true that the guy engaged in misdemeanor criminal mischief, if it's true he broke a security camera at a gated community in Hollywood, if it's true that he threw a bicycle at a security guard shack as part of some altercation and argument, if all that's true and the police were there, which they were, and at the end of the day they didn't charge him, that's not enough to escape the obligation to report it to the league, especially when you consider his history. And my guess is at some point, someone from the league said to Antonio Brown, as they were resolving all these other issues, and there's still one significant unresolved issue with Antonio Brown, you know, a civil lawsuit alleging sexual assault and rape. Somebody, I assume, I hope, I would think, said to Antonio Brown, you better stay out of trouble. And if there's anything that happens that's even remotely resembling trouble, you have to let us know about it so we can look into it and decide whether or not we need to intervene and take action. And the fact that nearly a month, more than a month, 32 days went by from incident to when it became public, if the league didn't know about it, and again, it all comes down to what the league wants to do. They've set these policies up so they can do what they want, when they want, how they want. There's enough there, though. If they want to throw the book at him, they can.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There's enough there. They can. I mean, first off, I mean, the league, NFL, PA, whatever, I mean, it doesn't sound like anybody knew about it. Secondly, I wouldn't think, you know, Antonio Brown... Listen, I don't know of that rule. I have no idea. I was a player rep at one point. I don't know if players would register in their brain to call and for lack of a better way to say it, tattletale on themselves. Hey, guys, I didn't
self-report themselves.
I know. I didn't get arrested, but I got in a lot of trouble here. I really, towed the line of getting arrested, but didn't. I just wanted to report that and let you know. That's not going to happen, and especially with a guy like Antonio Brown, who probably nobody has warned him of anything. But, yes, he knows he has to be on his best behavior. He's probably scared as hell when it all got done that day or whatever, and going, oh, man, I hope nobody finds out. I hope the NFL doesn't find out. I hope it doesn't break in the media, anything like that. So I would think his natural human reaction would be not to tell anybody, not the opposite, even though, he's in a very weird situation in this whole thing here because of the pending, situation that you talked about.
And that's why it's important to have competent people around you who provide you with advice.
Right.
Agents, lawyers who read the policies, who can look at the language that you and I just shared with the world, or at least anyone in the world who cares to be watching the show. And a reasonable person comes to the conclusion, anytime you get yourself on the fringes of an incident, at least let someone around you know so they can decide, should this be reported to the league? Because it's always better if you let it be known on your own than if they find out, and they're always going to find out. This case is proof positive. They're always going to find out. It's always going to come out. Anytime there's a police report generated, there's going to be a mechanism, a pathway for that report to make its way into the mainstream attention span. Whether it's an industrious reporter who's looking through the police reports, somebody catches wind of it, there's a tipster, or there's somebody in the police department that has a friend with one of the newspapers. They have a good relationship. They get a fruit basket every Christmas. Whatever the case may be, they send along police reports that maybe a reporter would be interested in.
Right.
They're public records.
Right.
So I don't know that the average player has any reason to know about this other than the fact that the policy's out there. And I would like to think that when we are conscious of the Ray Rice situation and other high-profile personal conduct policy investigations and punishments like Ezekiel Elliott from a few years ago, most guys never get in trouble, so it doesn't apply to them.
Yeah.
They're never going to get in trouble. That's the thing. We're talking about a policy that applies to a very small percentage of players. The vast majority of NFL players will not get in trouble, will not even get close to getting in trouble.
Right.
But the ones who have gotten in trouble and the ones who have been suspended, those are the ones for whom it becomes even more imperative, Chris, that they know and they understand what the rules are. And again, I doubt that the league didn't say to Antonio Brown at some point, I don't know this. This isn't one of those somebody told me and you can, don't say that someone from the league told you. You can just couch it as your own idea. No, this is one where I am truly spitballing. But it seems logical to me that someone in the league office would have the foresight to say to Antonio Brown, if anything else happens, you need to let us know immediately so we can deal with it. And it doesn't emerge in the Miami Herald or some other publication, and we get caught flat-footed with questions from people who want to know what we think about something that we don't even know about.
Well,
you didn't tell us.
That's where it's like I know, and I don't know if that message is conveyed. I really don't. I mean, I would wonder who comes out to say that, and then I just go back again to, Antonio Brown there, October 15th, not on a football team, dying to get back in the league. I just can't imagine your thought would be to call the NFL and, again, tell on myself. So why? They could know, and then maybe when the Bucs start to, get some of the business dealings with Antonio Brown, the league lets them know, hey, there was another incident, and I don't know. We don't know. This doesn't look good. To where now the Bucs go, all right, that's so we won't touch him, whatever. So he's put himself in a really tough spot to where because he got involved in an incident that he shouldn't have gotten involved in. He's gotten involved in so many incidents that even if he did know that rule, he's probably would be scared to tell people that, and then doesn't want to tell people that because he wants to get on a football team. Other thing I want to ask you, Mike.
Hey, hang on, wait, I got a question for you. I got a question for you because we live in a crazy upside down time where the right thing to do has gotten lost.
Oh, totally.
In so many different ways. And this dovetails with what I want to talk about later in the hour. But obviously the right thing to do is don't get involved in any incidents where the police show up. That's the threshold, general right thing to do. But when you find yourself in a situation like this, the right thing to do, clearly, even though, Chris, you're saying the temptation is there to keep your mouth shut, the temptation is there to let nature take its course and get your contract signed and get back in the NFL, and this is something you've been working for, and you've been persecuted by the NFL, and why are they giving me a hard time? Yeah, you can excuse it 50 different ways to Sunday, but what's the right thing to do? You tell me, what's the right thing to do? Once you're involved in an incident, when there's a clear policy that imposes on you an obligation to report it, what's the right thing to do?
Yeah, the right would be to report it, certainly.
Right.
Yeah, and let them know, like you're right, so they can kind of fight the battles they need to fight and do what's best not only for them, but with you included, involved with them in that business transaction. So I understand that. It's just this is a guy that's not exactly famous for the right thing to do. So, he will not go down in history as Antonio Brown did the right thing most of the time. No, that's not going to happen. All right, the other aspect I wanted to ask you about this, Mike, because we talked about it a lot in the offseason and Antonio Brown conversations. But, okay, so the NFL starts to look things up here and blah, 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 and they don't like what they see. And they're on the fence about suspending him again or taking action. And we know we got, the civil suit pending down the road. Do they take into account the things you talked about so much? We both talked about how he served his time and then some, as far as a suspension is concerned with all the games he missed last year and this year. Does that get part of the conversation, you think, for the NFL?
Well, I hope so. And see, this is where it becomes difficult for me because we start spinning different plates of righteousness. Like Antonio Brown should not be getting himself involved in these incidents. And he does have an obligation under the rules to report himself. But at the same time, the NFL screwed with him last year using this vague threat of putting him on the commissioner exempt list if he signed with a team as a way to keep him out of the league last year. They kept him away from a team. He wasn't employed because they were uncomfortable from a PR standpoint with the idea of Antonio Brown being in the NFL. Well, you never know what we're going to do about the commissioner exempt list. You never know. Well, are you going to put him on it or not? Well, we're not telling you whether or not that's up to you. So you may be paying this guy to not play for you. Hey, that's not our issue. That's yours. And what they did to him last year was wrong because he served a 14-game unpaid suspension as they took their good old time investigating the allegation of sexual assault and rape. And that's the strangest thing about his reinstatement. The thing that kept him out of the league last year, Chris, is the thing that they still haven't resolved.
I know. That's why I just wondered that's not resolved yet. And, you're going to suspend him for something that, I wonder what their thought or how they're going to approach this. That's all I'm saying. It is extremely strange. Certainly.
Yeah, here's how they'll approach it.
Yeah.
However they want, whenever they want, wherever they want. And look, the NFL's in-house justice system does not give me a ton of confidence. It is a PR tool masquerading as a device through which they do the right thing, right? This gets back to doing the right thing. No, they want to create the impression they've done the right thing, and sometimes that means punishing a guy. Sometimes it means not punishing a guy. Sometimes it means this vague threat of the commissioner exempt list so you can engineer a situation where the guy isn't employed, but you haven't had to suspend him. So I don't like anything about the NFL's in-house justice system. I thought it was misguided from the get-go. It was a reaction to the Ray Rice situation, but it gives them the power to do whatever they want to do, and then they can work backward to justify it however they want to justify it under the terms of their various policies. A lot of companies do that. They have a stack of policies yay high that they can sift through and find one piece of paper that justifies letting them do whatever it is they want to do, regardless of whether it is the right thing to do. Here's Bruce Arians, coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, from yesterday, talking about this latest Antonio Brown chapter.
You have brought women into football in a way that other coaches don't. And some women's groups were wondering why you would bring Antonio Brown in. Have you had conversations with anybody on that front? And what would you say to them about that?
Yeah, I've answered that one a few times, Rich. And it's, trust me. I mean, I think what you said, the record of how I've pioneered for them. Just trust me in the fact that I'm going to give this guy this chance, and it's just a chance, and let all that handle itself in the courts. And all I can ask them to do is trust me on it.
Yeah, see, that didn't address the latest incident. That's the pending incident, the allegation of sexual assault and rape, for which there were never criminal charges. You can always pursue one of two avenues if you're the victim of that type of conduct. You can go to the police, you can go to the civil justice system. And Brittany Taylor went to the civil justice system, and yes, it is pending in the courts. See, that's the way that Arians and the Buccaneers can kick the can through 2020, because he knows damn well the courts aren't going to issue a verdict in this case until 2021 at the earliest. It's due to go to trial in a few weeks. There's no way in hell it's going to trial in a few weeks. So we'll let the courts handle it. Well, they handle it, I don't know, hopefully long after Antonio Brown is retired from football. That's the game there. So, yeah, you're doing a certain amount of a deal with the devil when you sign Antonio Brown,
Definitely.
given the history, given the pending allegation. Because if it's true that he committed sexual assault and rape of Brittany Taylor, I don't think he ever should play in the NFL again. I don't know. I mean, he should be in jail if it really is true, but there's levels of proof.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't really produce the objective evidence that resolves the he said, she said that is at the core of so many of these situations. But there's enough smoke there that, and look, the league decided not to reach a conclusion for whatever reason, Chris. So it's a complicated situation. A lot of it is murky. A lot of it is unclear. The one thing that is clear, there was an incident on October 15 that, based upon the NFL's in-house media conglomerate, the NFL didn't know about. It wasn't reported to the NFL. If the NFL is so motivated to go after Antonio Brown again, it can. Now, look, based on its policies, it should if it wants to have true consistency in the application of the rules that apply to all players. The question is, will they? And
Yeah.
we never know.
Well, no, we
because
don't.
it's always whatever they feel
Well,
like doing on any given day.
It's never consistent. That's what we know. I mean, you've explained that already. It wasn't consistent with the last suspension with Antonio Brown. So that's why I was wondering, like, you know, maybe will they take that into account here with this situation? I don't know. The one thing I could sit there with right now, just what I really think about is I already go, we're 2 weeks in or 3 weeks in. I just wonder if the Bucs are already going, man, what did we do here? I just wonder. I mean, you know, you got okay, we're going to change our game plan for the Saints and play away. We haven't played all year because we're going to, you know, I don't know, appease Antonio Brown and Tom Brady and everybody that way, get blown out, you know, go back to the way we want to play, kick butt. You know, everybody's happy. Oh, wait, this Antonio Brown thing's going on. Now we got to talk about that again and those issues. And you'd have to wonder, what else do we not know? I mean, that's the other thing that I would be very worried about with Antonio Brown. Are we going to hear something that happened on September 15th, too, here in a few weeks? I mean, that's where I would really be on the edge of my seat if I was a big-time player there in the Buccaneers organization. Just, you know, when is that other shoe going to drop? Is there going to be another story we're going to have to deal with? Is there going to be another bit of information that's going to come out from the civil suit that looks really bad? And then we're just going to look bad in general that we got the guy on the team. I mean, they got to be thinking some of that right now. And, you know, I'm still shocked Bruce Arians did it. I really am. I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked. I'm shocked because he was so steadfast against it, and it doesn't seem like it's his type of guy. I'm not shocked because Tom Brady's there, and, of course, we thought this might happen.
If his behavior in the lawsuit that was sparked by the incident where Antonio Brown allegedly threw furniture off of a balcony at a Miami luxury condo and he was sued for damage done to the apartment, if his behavior in that litigation is any indication of what he'll do in this litigation, it's going to go off the rails at some point. What ultimately happened in the other case, he lost a default judgment, meaning he was so uncooperative with the process, the judge eventually said, that's it, it's over, you lose. We don't need to go to trial. We don't need to have a jury come in and decide whether or not you did or you didn't damage this property. You lose because you have disrespected the process. Now we just have to figure out how much you owe. So And that was, failure to comply, failure
Yeah.
to produce information. And
Right.
ultimately, when it's time for him to sit down and answer questions, and we've seen videos of different celebrities who get themselves in a deposition setting, and they are just total buttholes without the butt, right, with a different word. That's kind of how he was. And he had to go back and do his deposition again. So when it's time for him to be questioned aggressively by the lawyer who represents Brittany Taylor, that's when the whole thing could go off the rails and be not credible. That you could watch the video of the deposition, you could read the transcript and come to the conclusion, this guy's not innocent. This guy did something because of the way he's handling himself in this situation. So that's looming. Now, it's probably not going to happen before the end of the season, but it's going to happen before the case goes to a trial. And that's the thing that the Buccaneers, if they're still employing him, Chris, or the NFL, if he hasn't retired from the league, that's the thing they need to get their hands on, because they need to come to some conclusions based upon how he conducts himself in that setting.
Yeah, definitely. This is where I just don't, the NFL, the process, everything with some of these cases, I just feel like it's got to change a little bit. It's got to be a little bit more, consistent, like you said. And who knows where this goes? I really have no idea.
And let me just say one last thing, and then we can take a break. At the core of all of
time
this,
for your
very well,
grievance.
right? But it very well may be there's a mental health issue with Antonio Brown that's undiagnosed and untreated. That was why Drew Rosenhaus stopped representing him earlier this year. He wanted Antonio Brown to get help, and Antonio Brown refused to get help. And there are families that struggle with this all the time, where you have adults who can make their own decisions, who refuse to get help when they need help.
That's right.
And they engage in self-destructive behavior. And there are a lot of people in prisons throughout this country who, at the fundamental core of their problem, is a mental health condition. So, we can only hope that at some point the light bulb flickers enough that Antonio Brown gets help if he needs it. But until then, he's expected to comply with the rules of a normal society, and one of them will be sitting for this deposition and giving truthful testimony, and one of them is, at least in the eyes of the NFL, reporting an incident if you're involved in one. So we'll see what the NFL does with that moving forward.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.